Good morning again, everybody. This is Michael from Spades Consulting. So, today we are going to talk about one of the ideas that I had quite a long time ago, which honestly I won't lie, I was a bit ahead of the curve. And honestly, I have been for more than a decade. Normally, I'm a decade ahead in terms of thinking ideas where things are going. And then, 10 years later, after I tell people in person, all right, this is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to unfurl. These are the problems we got to look forward to. 10 years later, it's just like, huh, shocker. I was right. And then all the people I tell it to, it's just like, yeah, you were right. And then they go ahead and a lot of people just don't listen to what happens 10 years from now. All right. Honestly, I won't lie to you. When I was 17, I knew that it would be a miracle for the United States to survive for another 20 years. We'd be lucky if we had 10. And honestly, good God, have I been right? Wow. And that's not even taking into account like there's what $200 trillion in unfunded liabilities off the books. It's pretty nasty. Anyway, let's get to the point. Today we're going to talk about that old idea, which honestly, given the last video, I was talking about everybody chasing after the crown for a while. I even had that kind of thinking, and this is what it spawned in me. So, one of the ideas, because going into the future, um, there's not going to be a need for a large population, which and we'll take a sidetrack real quick. The reason why the wealthy look at the poor and refer to them as useless eaters, quote unquote, is when you look at the majority of economics and the things that are constantly coming to the center stage, it's all things that are tied to the issue of the majority of production isn't necessarily productive. Okay. We produce a whole hell of a lot. Okay. The problem is that most of the production is going to fulfill generic consumer needs. It's not getting us to space or anything really grand, any grand ideas, grand plans. It's not getting us there. It's we're working and producing, and a consequence of working and producing, the people who are excessively productive generally they need supporting structures around them in order to enable their ability, their excessive productive capacity. For them to reach that capacity, they need support staff in one form or another. Now, most of capitalist economics separates the support staff of the equation into its own siloed capitalist industry. Okay? Because I can assure you, if you had to provide for your own heat, you would not be working 40 hours a week. If you had to produce your own clothes, you definitely would not be working 40 hours a week because you'd have to spend more and more time dealing with all of these small issues, well, relatively small issues. They used to be massive ones, all of these small issues in order to maintain just a basic standard of living. So you go off to work, you do your 40 hours, you bang it out, and you work hard. The result from that is supposed to be a paycheck that not only provides the basic essentials, but it also is supposed to elevate your standard of living. You're supposed to be able to live a better life instead of what we have today, which is most people just scraping by with whatever they get. Okay. So, with the majority of production focused on just taking care of the population, not a whole lot, like, there's many factors for this, but the ability for people to continue to exert themselves at excess capacity to produce excess production to generate the level of excess profit that actually drives interest in business. Um, that's falling away, and you see it it's especially bad now that no matter what you do or what you buy, you end up spending exorbitant amounts of time just trying to fix or keep up with all of the shit that's breaking around you. All right, you can't get a car that's worth a damn. Well, if you can't get a car that's worth a damn, that won't fail, and I mean, legit fail, completely fail within 4 to 5 years. Um, and you can't even get appliances that'll last 5 years now. All right, because all of the support staff and support equipment is already at pretty high levels of utilization, and the planned obsolescence has gotten to the point, and the rent seeking has gotten to the point that it's become extra extractive because all the support. No, my apologies. Because all the support players are excessively bleeding the extra productive, all of the gains that would have otherwise gone to productive industry that would have been free and clear of any claims on it, all of that excess production is falling away. And we're quickly getting to the point where you produce one unit, you use one unit. It's becoming a steady state economic equilibrium. Okay? Which of course leads to problems with business if you can't make profit, if you can't make progress, if you're and legitimate progress, um, then there's no reason to engage in industry. There's no reason to engage in business if there is no benefit. It's going full gas on the full bore on the pedal, all right, and spinning your wheels in place. It's worthless. Okay, so that's why they refer to people as useless eaters. All right, especially as there is a large chunk of the population not engaged in productive industry, which people point at that, but they won't necessarily focus on the fact that one, being productive costs money, and two, there are not a lot of businesses in the United States that are actually producing marketable production. Okay, the majority of production, if you go to the Malthusian view, is where does the wealth come from? It comes from the trees from the forests, it's the food from the ground, it's the water from the springs. The real production, the real value is coming from the land itself. Unfortunately, most of that land is turned into golf courses, and it's largely wasted. All right, so much productive capacity is just pissed away on nothing. Anyway, to the point. Finally, to the point. Essentially, what I'm going to say, and I this relies for something like this to work. This does kind of rely on the idea that the entire system does not implode. Okay, every house a trade shop. Okay, a lot of people, um, a lot of people out there, they a lot of people have been programmed to go after 9 to 5, work their 40, and just go home and vegetate for 2, 3 days, whatever. The reality is the future that we're going into, there's not going to be a whole lot of need for, essentially, we're going to have a whole lot of excess humans. Okay? And the problem with excess humans, because AI is going to take over quite a lot, or at least it should take over quite a lot, unless that blows up, and then holy shit, we're going to be in way deeper shit as a country. Because without the automation, the cost of labor, and the inflation as it is, the country is not going to be in great shape. But people are going to have to figure out other ways to make an income other than working 9 to 5, because there's not going to be a lot of 9 to 5 jobs. All right. there's going to be a lot of gig work. There's going to be a lot of people having to produce things. Like some people, get by on arbitrage where they buy shit on a clearance at Walmart and flip it on eBay. There are people who do that. And that can be lucrative. Can be lucrative. But for the average person who just wants to kind of zombie through life, that option is not going to be on the table for much longer. You are going to have to actively stay on top of as much as you possibly can. All right. So part of that is everybody figuring out things that they can produce and producing them. If you have a room, if you have a garage that you can, instead of filling with fucking junk, fill with some used machinery that's still good. All right, some good old used machinery that still functions, that can still do the work, that could still do a job. All right, and produce anything of fucking value. All right, that you could sell on the market. All right, any market, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You could sell on Amazon, you could sell on eBay, you could sell out of your garage. You can, there's a lot of options. You can set up your own site, sell online. That's perfect. It works. Okay. Essentially, every single home is going to have to become a trade shop because they could take away your job, but they can't take away your heavy machinery. I mean, given they could if they really wanted to, if you violated zoning laws, and they could bust your balls a lot. But the closer you are to, the farther out you are from the cities, the better off you'll be. Essentially, every house is going to have to become a trade shop because, again, they could take your job away tomorrow, but they can't take away your ability to produce whatever widget or thing out of your garage. They can't take that from you. And honestly, if for the people who want stability, that's more or less what you want to try to aim for. Now, given, what was it? I think 2, 3 weeks ago, somebody sent me a story talking about I don't know if he was retired or not, but somebody's dad decided to go full bore and got a bunch of Cricut machines and laser engravers, and he essentially bankrupted himself, his wife, and the family, trying to just throw money at all of these things to set up his own business for himself. Now, I'm going to tell you firsthand, anything that you can do, anything that can be done cheaply, but still producing quality. All right. I'm not saying, go out there and produce, cheap Chinese crap. Okay. But what I am saying is you can find old machinery. If you wanted to open a kitchen, you can get old cooktops. You can get old stuff that still works. All right. Estate sales, all sorts of things. There's tons of, because there are tons of people who will go out there and they will try to buy the latest and greatest and they never fucking use it. And then all of the latest and greatest, it's like the boomer who goes out and buys a Harley. He rides it once a month, maybe. All right, equivalent, because if you have harsh winters or harsh weather, of course you're not going to go out fucking riding your bike. But you've got people who buy toys at full price, like a $20,000-$30,000 fucking Polaris, who they'll have a little bit of fun with it, and then eventually it'll just find its way into the garage with a cover on it, and you forget the fucking thing ever existed. All right? There is tons of industrial grade, near industrial grade, prosumer and consumer product out there that can be used productively, that's just sitting around. All right. And most people get to a point where they have it in their mind they're going to eventually use the fucking thing, whatever the fucking thing is. They have in the mind that they're going to actually go out and use it, and they never end up doing it. But it'll sit in the garage until they finally give up on the idea. You don't have to bankrupt yourself to try to set up your own little micro factory, okay? You could do it bit by bit and you can do it on the cheap, all right? And that's honestly what you should aim for, all right? If if you want the stability that comes from knowing that you can actually produce shit that people will buy, all right? And selling's not easy. It's not fucking easy. All right, even with the selling ice to an Eskimo video, I'm gonna tell you right now, selling is not easy. All right, there's a lot of moving parts and pieces that go into putting into a person's mind why they should buy something. Okay, but but if you build up the machines over time, okay, and then you finally get to the point where you could do it, you could make cat trees. All right, literally anything, anything. I mean, on the cat trees example, let's branch real quick. For a little while, I worked for a pet store. I was working two jobs at the same time, but I worked for a pet store to build up an extra, 10, 20 hours worth on the side. Place was run by bloodthirsty, man-hating lesbians, and I did not last long there because of it. But, like, just for an example, if you want to be able to compete with Chinese production on cat trees, the place got an order of cat trees in, and literally all of them. So during production, the carpeting, so they fold it, they lay it over the top, and then they fold it under, and then, it's cheap plywood. They fire staples into it. The problem is that somebody had the bright idea to use the wrong length of staples. So I was just fucking loading these up on the shelves, and I run my hand across one of them, and I'm missing skin, and I'm fucking bleeding. Okay? It does not take much to beat cheap Chinese or even Mexican shed production. Okay? Higher quality shit, higher quality components, actually thinking before you do something. These are minor things, but people getting paid next to nothing don't care about these things. They just zone out. Okay? You build up piece by piece, and you figure out things that people might want, and you produce those things in the spare time. Hopefully, with any luck, you get to the point where your side business micro factory ends up producing more in staple returns than any employer would, and then you can make the jump to be like, all right, boss, it's been great. I'm doing my own thing. Hopefully, won't have to see you. Hopefully, the next time I see you, you'll be a customer. Until next time, get the 2 weeks out of the way, ideally, even though there's plenty of reasons. Zoomers will definitely tell you giving an employer 2 weeks is a joke because they'll fucking flick you and kick you to the curb at the drop of a fucking hat. But that's what the normal person who wants any kind of stability should be aiming for now. Every house a trade shop. All right. This does not necessarily fit in with, just do your hobbies. Like, no, this is higher level than just doing a hobby. This is trying to ensure that you're not going to fucking starve and that you're not going to suffer if your job gets automated next. Okay? And I could tell you this personally. I've done woodworking. I've done quite a lot of things. Because I could never, for the most part, I could never necessarily settle on one thing. And I was literally surrounded by, well, I could do this, could do that, could do this, could do that, this, that, and this, and the other. And it is really hard to settle on doing one thing. But once you have control over your time again, you don't have to. That's the thing. You only really have to lock in necessarily to only doing one thing if most of your life is spent grinding away so your employer makes money. Okay? When you're in charge of your own schedule again, holy shit, you could do whatever the fuck you want. You can do whatever the fuck you want within reason, within reason. Of course, you still got to actually work occasionally, but, or actually produce a cat tree, for instance. But this is the thing. Stability is going to be in the form of self-employment, and especially, with the tariffs and everything else, the impulse is there to start producing things domestically. Even if that impulse goes away, if you can produce decent or better quality, you can beat most of the imports. All right. And with an example like that of running your hand over and losing skin and bleeding because they used, like, I don't even know how long they were. They had to be 1 inch staples and, oh God, what, 1 inch staples and 3/8 plywood? Yeah. No, it was not pretty. But anyway, uh, that is that is one idea. That is one idea. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that anybody should just go out and do it, okay? Because chasing after a dream or anything recklessly generally ends in fucking disaster. But it's definitely something that you should look into and explore the possibilities and think about very carefully, because if AI works out and the bubble doesn't pop, there's going to be a whole lot of jobs that aren't going to exist anymore. There's already a whole hell of a lot of jobs that don't exist anymore. If AI doesn't work out, uh, we're staring down the barrel of a gigantic financial crisis, um, general insolvency, uh, recession at best, depression at worst. Okay, that's the truth of it. But I'm going to end it here. I don't really have too much time to go before I got to get, bouncing around and doing things. Anyway, you guys have a good one. This has been Michael from Spades Consulting. Check out the site, spadesconsulting.com. Check out the Substack, spadesconsulting.substack.com. And if you are in the need for personal or business advice, by all means, stop by the site. If you wanted to possibly get a bit of a discount, becoming a paid subscriber to the Substack will generate a monthly discount code. All right, that'll be, of course, greater value than the cost of the subscription. Regardless, check out, and you can sub for free. We don't paywall it. Check out the Substack. If you like the video, subscribe if you so choose, and I will see you guys next time.